They say money can buy anything. Comfort, power, and even love, if you know where to look. But on Christmas Eve, when the world feels warm and connected, even the richest man in the city sat in silence, surrounded by everything, yet truly having nothing. The narrator's voice lowers, emotional but steady, until three little girls changed everything, with nothing more than a letter and a heart big enough to melt a man who thought his heart had frozen long ago. Screen fades to black. The story begins. Ethan Grant was the name everyone knew, the youngest billionaire CEO in New York. At only 35, he had built his empire from nothing. Luxury hotels across the world, a tech company that everyone wanted a piece of, and an image that magazines worshipped. People called him the Miracle Mind. But behind the sleek suits and private jets was a man who hadn't smiled, truly smiled, in years. He sat alone in his penthouse on Christmas Eve. The city outside glittered with laughter, couples walking hand in hand, families carrying gifts, and children pulling sleds through the park. Inside his apartment, the only sound was the faint crackle of the fireplace he hadn't wanted but his assistant had insisted on. A perfect holiday picture, with no one in it but him. On the long dining table sat untouched food, prepared by a private chef. Lobster, steak, roasted duck. Expensive wine poured into crystal glasses. And yet, Ethan just stared at it all. He had everything, but no one to share it with. Once upon a time, there had been someone. Her name was Laura. They'd been engaged 6 years ago, before his obsession with success drove her away. He still remembered her last words. "You'll realize too late, Ethan, that love isn't something you can buy back." He hadn't realized it then. He did now. And the price was unbearable. As midnight approached, Ethan looked out at the city skyline. The streets below were nearly empty except for a few last-minute shoppers and carolers heading home. He sighed and turned away, ready to drown in another glass of wine, when something caught his eye. A small movement outside his door camera. 3 little figures. He frowned, checking the security feed. 3 girls, identical, maybe 6 or 7 years old, stood shivering at the entrance of his building, bundled in worn coats and holding something in their mittened hands. They didn't look like they belonged anywhere near this luxury building. The guard approached them, speaking gently, and then looked up toward the camera as if asking for instructions. Ethan hesitated. He never allowed strangers near his home. Especially not on Christmas Eve. But something deep inside, told him not to turn them away. "Let them in," he said through the intercom, surprising himself. Moments later, the elevator doors opened, and the triplets stepped out, clutching each other's hands. They had the same golden-brown curls, big eyes full of wonder, and a nervous energy that made Ethan's chest tighten. The eldest, or maybe just the boldest, held out a folded piece of paper. "Sir, this is for you," she said softly. He blinked. "For me?" "Yes. Our mommy said, if we ever saw the man in the big window up high, we should give him this." Ethan took the letter with a trembling hand. His voice almost failed him. "Your mother." The little girl nodded. She's sleeping now. She told us to find you." He unfolded the letter, his heart pounding as he read the first line. "Dear Mr. Grant, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you in person. I used to work in your company, years ago. You won't remember me, but I remember you. You once gave me hope when I had nothing. And now, I hope to give you something in return." The handwriting was delicate. Familiar. Ethan's hands began to shake. "These are my daughters. Your daughters." His breath caught. The world tilted. He looked up at the 3 little girls, their wide eyes watching him expectantly. No, it couldn't be. Laura. The name signed at the bottom of the letter. He felt the air leave his lungs. "Laura," he whispered. The girls didn't understand. "Mommy said you're a good man," one said softly. "And that you're lonely, just like us." Tears blurred his vision as the city lights outside flickered like fading stars. And for the first time in years, Ethan Grant, billionaire CEO, the man who had everything, fell to his knees on the marble floor, holding a letter that shattered and mended his heart all at once. The hours that followed were a blur of disbelief and tenderness. Ethan had the girls wrapped in blankets, sitting by the fire, sipping hot cocoa his chef had rushed to prepare. They were identical, but each had her own little spark. Ella, the brave one who had spoken first. Emma, the quiet one with big, curious eyes. And Emily, who kept asking if the Christmas tree was real or made of magic. Ethan couldn't stop staring at them. Their laughter, their warmth, their eyes. Laura's eyes. "Where is your mother now?" he asked carefully, afraid of the answer. The girls looked down. Ella bit her lip. "She got sick," she whispered. "She said she'd go to the stars soon, and that maybe if we found you, we wouldn't be alone anymore." Ethan's chest tightened. He felt like the air itself had turned to glass. Laura, gone? The woman he had loved, the one he'd hurt by walking away? He hadn't even known she had children. His children. He stood, pacing the room, anger and grief battling inside him. Why hadn't she told him? Why now? But then he remembered the letter's last line, which he hadn't finished reading in the shock. "I never told you because I didn't want your pity or your money. I wanted our girls to know love first, not luxury. But if something happens to me, please, give them the family I couldn't give you. You once saved my life, Ethan. Now, please save theirs." He looked at the girls again, and something inside him broke completely. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He sat by the fire while the triplets curled up on the couch, asleep under blankets. He read and reread Laura's letter until dawn painted the sky gold. He saw flashes of their past, the laughter, the dreams they'd shared before ambition tore it apart. And now, here were the pieces of that broken love, breathing softly before him. When morning came, Ethan made a decision that would change everything. He called his board of directors and said only 6 words. "I won't be coming in today." The entire board panicked. Ethan Grant never took a day off. But he didn't care. He spent that day, Christmas Day, with the girls. They decorated the massive penthouse tree together, made paper snowflakes, and even convinced him to wear a Santa hat. For the first time in his adult life, Ethan laughed until his stomach hurt. At one point, little Emily climbed onto his lap, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, "Mommy said you forgot how to smile. But you're remembering now, right?" He swallowed hard, his throat burning. "Yeah, sweetheart. I think I am." Days turned into weeks. Paperwork was signed, arrangements made, and soon, Ethan officially became the girls' guardian. The media called it the CEO's Christmas miracle, but to him, it wasn't a headline, it was redemption. He turned one of his hotels into a shelter for single parents, naming it Laura's Place. Each year on Christmas Eve, he'd read aloud the letter that had changed his life to everyone gathered there, ending with the same line he'd added himself. Sometimes, the greatest gifts don't come wrapped in paper. They arrive when life decides you're finally ready to love again. As the story fades out, the camera pans to Ethan sitting with the triplets years later, smiling under the Christmas lights as snow falls softly outside. The narrator closes with quiet emotion. He once had everything money could buy. But only when 3 little girls left him a letter on Christmas Eve did he finally find what his heart had been missing all along. No one is truly alone on Christmas. Sometimes, love just waits for the right letter, the right moment, the right heart to find its way home.